Hey there, welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. If you are brand new to my channel and just discovered it, yay, you're finally here. And if you're a subscriber, welcome back. I truly appreciate your support. And as you know, I always reply to every comment. So comment down below and let me know what you think about this movie or any other movie, or which movie you're most excited to see next. So my goal, as you know, is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content so that you can make the best decision as to whether or not you want to spend time or money or both sometimes watching a specific film. So today the movie I'm reviewing is called Journey to Bethlehem. This lovely film premieres exclusively in theaters today. No platform streaming has been announced just yet, but I'm sure it's going to follow. And I think that this might become a holiday classic of sorts. The movie is rated PG and is an hour and 38 minutes. And the movie review mom grade I'm giving it, if you haven't already guessed, is an A. I just thought it was really great. Let me explain why, although there were some things I didn't like. I'll point out things I did like. I'll give you an overview in a nutshell. And I'll also share tips for parents, themes worth talking about, funny lines, interesting lines, and recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that you might also like. All right, you ready to dive in? Let's go. This live action Christmas musical adventure for the entire family weaves classic Christmas melodies with humor, faith, and new pop songs in a retelling of the greatest story ever told, the story of Mary and Joseph and the birth of Jesus Christ. This is directed and written by Adam Anders with the help of Peter Barscochini. So some of the things that I really liked are that, first of all, if you're a Christian, you've probably read the Bible and heard this story many, many times, evoking specific images in your mind of how everything might have actually happened, right? Well, woke Hollywood and American perspectives definitely take over the production. It doesn't claim to be an authentic representation, though, so I'm not going to be very critical. And I enjoyed the unique musical take and the injection of a lot of humor and winks to the audience. Because we've already had so many other versions of the nativity story in film, I love the songs and the musical and the dancing and all of that. The original zippy musical numbers are really good and appropriately fit the time period without looking like over the top Broadway musical numbers. I mean, they sort of are, but not over the top and ridiculous. Like, again, it fits the time period and the topic, I think, a little bit. It just makes it more of a celebration rather than this somber, serious telling of the story that we often get. The director, Adam Anders, shared that his favorite song from the film is called Mother to a Savior and King. And that is definitely a super touching one, but I really liked all of them. And there's some variety, you know, there's the sweet kind of songs, and then there's the jazzy, fun, goofy ones too. I had the great pleasure of going to Israel last spring, walking where Jesus walked, and visiting places like Bethlehem and Nazareth that are shown in this story. The terrain and locations in Israel gave me so many new insights and perspectives that I actually began writing a book about it. So I'll keep you posted. You can see all of my other books all listed on Amazon. You can see when they're offered for free by following me on Instagram or Facebook. My Instagram name is my real name, Trina Boice. And you can also follow me as Movie Review Mom on there on a different account. But anyway, surprisingly, the movie was actually filmed on the coast of Spain and not in Israel at all. Now, I lived in Spain for a couple of years, so I'm always happy to see that lovely country in film too. I adore Antonio Banderas and thought he was great as always. I don't know if you ever saw him in the movie Evita. That's the first time I think I ever heard him sing. And I was like, whoa, he's a fun actor and he can sing. Yeah, he can sing and he does a really great job in this movie. The actress who played Mary is Fiona Palomo. She's very sweet and truly looks the part. She has a lovely singing voice too. I just loved her as a choice in casting. Now, Joseph, her husband, is played by Milo Manheim, or Milo, who looks great with Fiona Palomo. They're a great couple. Their duets together are beautiful. However, in my mind's eye, I always thought Joseph was much older. Some people even say he might have been a widow, which would explain some of Jesus's siblings and why Joseph wasn't around towards the end of Jesus's life. Now I don't know, that's not said in the scriptures, it's not doctrine or anything, but I pictured him always being a little bit older. Now in this movie, he's portrayed as a young, single bachelor type of guy. And so whatever, I like them together. Think about it how you will. The entire cast is excellent and includes Lecrae, Mariah, people without last names, Joel Smallbone, Omid Jalili, Gino Sedgers, Rizwan Manji, Antonio Gill, and many, many more. The costume design is very simple, but perfectly effective. I'm glad that they decided not to go over the top to match the pop style of music. Now, one of my favorite musicals of all time is Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And there are scenes where everybody looks like old-time Old Testament type of clothing, but then they'll jazz up and shush up a few scenes just to really play it up. Anyway, I thought that was really fun. It's a little bit like that in this movie. There's a balanced amount of both visual and spoken humor. Every year there is a slew of new Christmas movies, right? But most of them are about believing in Santa Claus. So I thought it was really refreshing to have a new one about the true reason for the season, Jesus Christ. Because the movie is so family friendly, viewing this could become an annual tradition for families who want a lighter, fun-filled version of this eternally important and joyful story. So Merry Christmas. All right, now with all of that praise, and I really did get a kick out of this movie, there were just a few things that I didn't like or I thought could have been done better. For example, it bothered me that Mary and Joseph began fighting only minutes after meeting. I wanted to see more sweet moments of them learning to love each other. Now, like I said, this is a young couple. They're both good looking, and yet there is some feistiness, mostly coming from Mary. And I was like, why is she giving him such a hard time? And then even when they get married, they're bickering often about things. Now, we do see sweet moments, so don't get me wrong, but I wanted more. Now, granted, they were betrothed. They didn't choose each other, so that had to have been difficult, but I'm just saying, I would have liked more sweetness. I also always pictured Mary as very humble, faithful, and obedient. The scriptures actually tell us that about her. She's pretty feisty in this movie, especially with all of the male figures in her life. Now, I don't see her that way. I've never pictured her that way, especially back in the day when women were very subservient or submissive to male authority figures. So anyway, that just kind of rubbed me a little bit wrong. Now, there's a black Gabriel when the angel Gabriel comes in the Annunciation. Some viewers might be bothered by that, but I actually loved his gold-touched lips and piercing blue eyes, and we don't know what color he was, so whatever. I wanted to see Joseph have a confirming experience of the Annunciation with Gabriel, but it was super short and kind of odd and not as cool as what Mary got. Now in the scriptures, we know he was given information that allowed him to continue with the marriage because, of course, it was assumed that Mary had been unfaithful before they got married, and got knocked up. And obviously that wasn't the case. But anyway, there are a lot of musical numbers in Acts 1 and 2. However, they noticeably slowed down in Act 3. It would have been lovely to have one more toward the very end of the movie. There are definitely some historical and biblical inaccuracies. I've already mentioned a few, but For example, Joseph and Mary would not have made that long 90-mile walking trip to Bethlehem alone. Because of the dangers of travel back then, people traveled in groups, especially during seasons of the census or on long trips like that. So while there are many more inaccuracies, it's important to focus more on the message of the birth of the Savior of the world and its importance than missed details in the story. And of course, all movies that we've seen about this story have different interpretations. And so again, we just have to focus on the message and the messenger of the story. At the very end of the movie, we read these words on the big screen, quote, "While taking some creative license, the filmmakers strived to remain true to the message of the greatest story ever told," end quote. I loved that. The movie contrasts different kinds of love, a romance between a betrothed man and a woman, Joseph and Mary, a narcissistic king's love of his throne and what he does to grasp at that power, and God's love for the world by gifting us with his only begotten son. I loved that. All right, so let me give you some tips for parents because I think this is a family-friendly movie. You'll be very happy to know that there is no profanity. Yay! Watching this with your kids can be a terrific opportunity to discuss the events of this Bible story to determine what is a Hollywood representation and what is actually based on the scriptural telling of this account. There's talk of a young girl getting pregnant out of wedlock, which puts her at risk of being stoned to death. And so you can talk about what those laws were back in the day. Joseph is seen in an imaginary battle where he's fighting. And actually, it's a really interesting portrayal, I thought. There is talk of killing babies, which of course is horrific and which did occur, and talk of poor hygiene, which is mostly meant as a joke in this movie. But you can always, remind your kids, brush your teeth, wash your hair, take a bath, that kind of stuff. Some of the themes that are illustrated very well are the birth of Jesus Christ, the nativity story, obedience and faith in God, truth, faith, hope, trust, and even marriage. So whenever I watch movies, I take notes, especially funny lines or interesting lines, simply so I can share them with you so you can get a real taste for the dialogue and the script writing quality. So I was looking through my notes. I didn't write down anything funny, although there is humor in the film. I guess nothing just struck me enough to write it down. But I did write an interesting line, and this one is spoken by Elizabeth. Now, I couldn't find the actress's name on any of the cast lists that I looked at, but this is when Mary, who is pregnant, just barely, goes to visit her cousin, Elizabeth, who is also pregnant with John the Baptist. And anyway, Elizabeth says, "If my husband could talk," because remember, her husband was struck dumb for a time. Anyway, she says, "If my husband could talk, he would say, patience is a good companion for faith." And I thought that that was a really sweet line and true too. All right, so let me give you some recommendations for 3 movies that I instantly thought of while I was watching this. The first is a classic, The Nativity Story. It's very well done. It's pretty basic and straightforward without, Hollywood musical interpretations and all of that kind of stuff. It's very sweet. Another one is called The Star, the star up in the sky that led the wise men to find the baby, that whole thing. And it's very sweet. Another one is called Chasing the Star. So I think it's fun to mix it up, share these with your family from year to year, or pick one year and then watch the next one the next year. We've got 25 days of Christmas season. Well, the whole month, I guess, if you're counting all the way up to New Year's. So there's plenty of time to watch all of these. Anyway, I really liked all of those. All right, that is it. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your time and your support. And have yourself a very Merry Christmas. Bye for now.